Looking ahead to tomorrow's game, are there any players back or unavailable? We haven't heard about Victor Lindelof or Johnny Evans for a while. What's the situation with them? Johnny is still not training. Victor returned to training but is not available for tomorrow. Maybe in the next game he'll be available. Licha and Kobbie Mainoo are returning for the team, so we are prepared for the game. Ruben, it feels first under Ruud, then under you, that the club has made progress. But when Eric lost at West Ham, they were 14th and now you're 13th. Do you feel as though the improvement has not been translated into positions on the table or results yet? Yeah, it's hard because this league is very competitive and changes all the time with just one result. Sometimes when you are making progress, you do so much and then you see just this kind of result. We have to pass this phase so I can feel it the same way. Because before this Arsenal game, you guys were asking about the top 4, and now we return to this position. Nowadays, it's like that. You have to manage expectations, and at the same time, when you have a bad result, you have to be calm and continue to do the job that we're doing. Is that the key to it? Because tomorrow won't be an easy game. But you need a consistent run of results to go from 14th, 13th, 12th to 6th, 7th, 8th. I think that is very clear. And if you see nowadays, in 1 week, you have 3 games. That can change the image of the team, of the perception of the team, and the team on the table. In 1 week, you can change a lot. It's like that. We need to have consistency in the way we focus on the job, on training. And then the result you don't control, but you feel that you have to win 3 matches to see a big gap in the table. Ruben, you make lots of changes from match to match so far, and obviously you've explained why. Are you any closer to understanding what your best lineup can be now? More or less, yes. You have an idea, but then we have the problems that players returning without training, and then you have to manage the load. So we have always the same problem. And then you have to imagine and to understand what kind of player you have. Like Bruno Fernandes, you feel it against Arsenal. In the end, he was a little bit tired. But you know that he's going to recover very well. If you think about Manuel, I know him for so long. I know that sometimes he needs a little bit more time. So we are in that process to know the players and try to manage that. But we are getting closer to an idea. Yes, Ruben, so many games for you already. Very little time on the training pitches. But have you been impressed with how significantly United have improved out of possession? And is that then the foundation for you to build on? I think that is a key point for us. And we have to understand our supporters. Just in 2 weeks, in 4 matches, you can understand that they just want to see effort. In the first moment, they just want to see effort. Then they want to win games. And after a while, with effort and winning games, they will want to see a very dominant team. And then these are the phases that we have to follow. This one is the easy one. It's that effort, full sprint back, full sprint forward. And that is a key point for us. So our focus is a lot on that. Every defeat can be a win if you turn it into a lesson. So what were the big ones you guys extracted from that Arsenal game? It's really hard. I learned the same, I think, with wins, because I'm really focused on the performance. I learned a lot against Everton. We won 4-0, but you can see so many things that are wrong. I saw the same thing against Arsenal. Of course, we have to improve set pieces. And we try it in the indoor stadium. We spend there a lot of time. But then we need time to think about things. We don't have time to train sometimes our structure. We have one game, the next recovery. And then the other game, we have to prepare for the next opponent. So it's really hard to manage everything. But I feel when I see the team, we are improving in certain aspects. You're obviously a squad and the players come about and get themselves fit now. Are you learning about your players every single day? Or are you learning more on a match day? Because you're changing the squad rotation quite a lot at the moment. Are you learning about your players moving forward, who you can trust on a weekly basis? Yeah, I trust in every one of them. I'm understanding in the training, in the games, and each position, they play better. What kind of situation is better for you? One guy or to another? These things, I need to be close to them. I need to see the games in the dugout, as you say, not in TV. So I'm learning, and I think we as a staff are learning really fast what they are able to do or not. So we are trying to find out everything in a fast pace. Hey, what's your headline out of that? Yeah, still a long way to go. This is tough. I just think what's concerning, it's not a grave concern, but the substitutions, for me, the like-for-like substitutions, changing two of your back three in the 65th minute, there has to be other issues going on that need changing and fixing. And what I would say about, again, this is my opinion, sometimes you have to let players suffer a little bit. Like bringing a player off almost lets them off the hook. You have ideas that you want to get across. Let them play through it. Look, he's chasing the game. I think he can chase the game in other ways, but it just shows what a long-term project this is. When you keep changing players, when you keep changing your back three, you take 5 players off, you're basically saying to all of them effectively, because they've obviously been left out at the start of the game, that you don't trust them. And Ten Hag kept doing that a few weeks ago, where he kept changing the back players, changing the midfield, and all of a sudden you've got a completely different system, a completely different set of players on the pitch at the end of the game, and you can never get stability or consistency. I think that's just an element of what Tim's just said. Just leave the players on. They actually weren't playing that bad in the first half. Obviously they were undermined by the set pieces in terms of the corners, but the football generally wasn't that bad. Then you allow 2 mistakes that were made after half-time within the first 10 minutes to undermine you, and then basically you make changes and all of a sudden everything falls to pieces. And it looked really scruffy, really scruffy. They looked a mess at the end, United, with no real shape. I had to think, at least in the first half, they weren't brilliant, but at least they had a shape to them. So on Monday morning, on the training ground, what's the first and most important thing he does? I think, I said this for Ten Hag for probably about 12 months. Pick an 11 that you think are the best. But he doesn't know, does he? I know. But I thought today, the team, we all agreed before the game, even Leon commentary and Peter discussed it before the game. We thought that 11 was probably, apart from Luke Shaw, as close to Manchester United's best 11 as you could get. But then he changed 5 of them. I know, I'm not saying don't make a substitution, but almost give that 11 the faith and trust. Maresca's doing it now at Chelsea. He's playing an 11 on a Sunday or a Saturday, and then he's playing a different 11 in midweek, and he's sending some messages to the players that there's stability here. This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to play. And this is an idea that I believe in. When you change players all the time, you're almost saying to everybody, you're just juggling plates, spinning plates all the time. There's no consistency or familiarity that can build with players. You need to build patterns together. You need to build that sort of idea of what you're doing together. And they can never do that if players are changing in all areas of the pitch. I agree with that, Tim. Yeah, I do. I mean, the one thing that sticks out for me is in 18 months' time, when I think United will start to be at their best, it won't look anything like this. So many of these players won't be there. And I look at, and I said something to you both off air, like something's crept into United, a few things, but we're playing from behind and you snatch it across. And it was good movement of play and you're pumping up the crowd and you're like, this isn't what Manchester... I played with players at Manchester United that would have been embarrassed and they would have told me, we're losing the game. You don't pump up the crowd. You win the game and you walk off the pitch. And so there's been a lot of that with this current team. And that's about strong leaders and characters holding each other accountable, which they don't have yet. No good team is ever good team without hard work. Manchester United are 13th in the league, and their running stats, their distance covered is 16th in the league. You don't deserve anything if you're being outrun every single week. And that's also interesting because the first game under Ruben Amorim, their running stats were pretty low, weren't they? I remember you saying, which you'd have thought that its first game, they'd run their hearts out. To me, the worst thing that can be said about you is that basically you're not a hardworking player or you're not a hardworking team. And I think when I interviewed Ruben Amorim 3 weeks ago, He said, the first thing that I want to change is the athleticism of the squad. He's basically saying they're not fit enough. They're not as fit as the other players in the league. They don't work as hard as the other players in the league. When Manchester United give the ball away, they don't sprint back with the same intensity as other players in the league that you watch. The one thing that a fan wants to see going into a stadium is their players, if you like, caring and passionate for the shirt. They want to see them working as hard as they possibly can, and they'll forgive a lot of other things. They'll forgive mistakes, but you don't get that from United. You get the poor quality. You get actually a team that is lethargic in the way in which they work. And it's not easy to just quickly, how quickly can you get that fitness? We're talking weeks or we're talking months. Whether it's fitness, confidence, belief, or whether it's just general work ethic, it's a mixture of all three. And I can't work out, Ruben Amorim has got to work it out pretty quickly. Is it a work ethic issue? There is definitely a work ethic issue in that squad where they don't know what the standard is. There is definitely a fitness issue in that squad. And there's a confidence issue. And to be fair, it's a vicious circle, and I'm not quite sure how you get out of it. But something's got to give. He's got to almost sacrifice maybe the next month and say, right, we've got to do a fitness camp, and we might lose games on the Saturday because we've worked hard during the week. But the upside of that is that in February, March, April, May, we'll be fitter, we'll be stronger, and we might start to see something. In the Telegraph, it's come out an interview that Sir Jim Ratcliffe has done with United We Stand fanzine. I just want to read you a couple of quotes. Tim, I'll start with you. These are some quotes from Sir Jim Ratcliffe. The club has drifted for a long period of time, a decade or so. Manchester United has become mediocre. There is a major change to come to achieve elite status. It's not elite, and it's supposed to be one of the best football clubs in the world. Trying to turn what's been relatively mediocre into an elite top team is a big task. It is not an easy problem to solve. They are strong words, actually quite similar to what Ruben Amorim said about being a massive club, but not a massive team. I mean, there's no doubt about this. Well, they're trying to make sure everyone knows this ain't happening in 2025, or certainly not in 24, and probably not in 25, right? That's what the message is trying to get out there. Yeah. Look, I like what Sir Jim Ratcliffe has done since he's taken over the club. And quite frankly, once Sir Alex Ferguson had left the dugout, this club needed a figurehead, and they haven't had it. They haven't had someone at the top to just say, I'm in charge. And I'll say what needs to be said. And he's doing that. And I think it's important. And again, I like what he's done. I like the things he said, particularly the fact that his manager is on the same page as him, as are the people under him. It's a strong statement, but it was needed. Is this too negative, or are you okay with it? I mean, we've wanted a voice at the club for many, many years. We wanted someone to speak out. Ruben Amorim saying that basically it's a massive club, but not a massive team. And Jim Ratcliffe saying that the club is currently mediocre. We've just seen the evidence out there on the pitch. What we've just been discussing about that lack of work ethic, that lack of belief, that lack of confidence. There's no authority in the club. They've lost they're scared of their own shadow. There's not a boldness. There's not that sort of feeling of being proud. They need to get that back. And it's not going to come back very easy, but at least they're talking about it. At least they're confronting their problems head on and accepting what they currently are, as difficult as it is to watch. Now it's 741 or 741. Let's talk about Manchester City, who we all know are struggling in the league at the moment, mate. But as Pep made the point, it's been a brilliant few years for them, hasn't it? It has, and we're intrigued to see what happens in Manchester City over the next few months. Look, we know he is staying on for the next few years. We know everything going on off the pitch in terms of the 115 charges, but is he going to relish the challenge he's got facing him going forward in the months ahead? We'll wait and see, but we have to remember, they started the season so well. Let's have a look at Manchester City at the start of the season. First 9 games, scored the most goals, first least conceded, top of the shots on target, and the fewest shots faced. It was a really good start for Manchester City started this season well with a win at Chelsea. Erling Haaland was absolutely fantastic. The injury to Rodri came on September the 22nd, but a club of this stature who've won so much, it doesn't feel right to just mention one player getting injured. Every club has key injuries, or is it too key an injury? I don't know, but let's have a look at what they've done over the last few weeks, and it's been a November to forget for Manchester City. Defeats to Bournemouth, Brighton, Spurs, and now Liverpool. 4 crushing league defeats. They're second bottom in terms of goals scored, second bottom goals conceded, leading to Ederson not in the side on Sunday against Liverpool. 11th shots faced, 9th. These are stats you do not associate with Manchester City Football Club. So with all that in mind, how's December looking? Let's have a look at Manchester City's December menu. Now look, what a season for us to have in under Nuno Espirito Santo. Now look, start the season, you'd have that as a 3 points for Manchester City, no problem. Not anymore. And Nuno will go there and he'll tell the players, they'll smell blood there, won't they? Then this Saturday at Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace. It's not been the greatest of starts this season for Oliver Glasner, but Eberechi Eze might be back. We'll wait and see. Oh, goodness me, what a game that's going to be. 15th for December, the Manchester derby. Ruben Amorim's already seemed to have made a real impact. Villa away on the 21st. That's not going to be easy. That's always a tough game. Everton on Boxing Day, and then Leicester away under Ruud van Nistelrooy. We don't know how Leicester are going to do under Ruud van Nistelrooy, so we'll see about that. Look, we're not even factoring in, they've got European matches as well, Champions League matches. There's no guarantee that City are going to qualify for the knockouts of the Champions League yet so far. It is a really intriguing next few weeks for Manchester City and Pep Guardiola. Welcome everybody to Anfield for the latest edition of the Gary Neville podcast, off the back of what even on the 1st of December feels like a mammoth football result. Gary, Liverpool have beaten Manchester City. They've left them 11 points behind, 25 to play. Where are we at? I mean, a completely different position than we thought it would be at the start of the season. Completely different position than we thought it would be probably about 6 to 8 weeks ago. Incredible what's happened to Manchester City. And Liverpool have been so smooth. It's gone from being a very good start to putting in real high-quality, authoritative performances that are looking really dangerous when you think of a Premier League title. To be 11 points clear of Manchester City, 9 points clear of Arsenal. I said at the end of the game, it's dreamland for Liverpool, for Arne Slot. And with that, and I don't think they'll mind it, because I think they've got good experience in the dressing room. It comes a level of pressure now that now there'll be an expectance that they will win the title. It'll change from sort of Liverpool are favourites to, hang on a minute, I've won titles from teams who've been 11, 12 points clear. And I've lost titles from being 11 points clear back in 98 when Arsenal, I think we were 11 points in front of Arsenal at one point. So I know how that feels, but there will be a slightly different mentality. But it's a big week for Liverpool. It started really well for them. We'll come on to their performance, I'm sure. But they've also got Newcastle away on Wednesday. I think they've got the Merseyside derby next week as well, away at Everton at Goodison Park. And the last ever one at Goodison Park. So that'll be quite special. So there's a job still to do. I don't think it's a time to get carried away and there's many points to play for, but that was a brilliant performance. I said during the game, the first half an hour, first 25 minutes, they were electric. They were like a rash. They were all over Manchester City, heavy metal football. Then they sort of, if you like, just played a little bit on the counter-attack. And they continued to do that after the break, but looked equally in control. And you got a really good side when you can be in control of a game when you're playing well, and in control of a game when you're not in possession. And you've not got the ball and the other team are playing well, and that's what they have at this moment in time. Virgil van Dijk, apart from the 83rd minute little, shall we say, mess up that he did, which I called on a minute before. He was unbelievable. He was a giant back there, and he holds the whole team together. But it was a big, big day. I thought Liverpool would win today. The City had been awful. They looked beaten, and we'll come on to City as well. But I thought the team selection of Pep Guardiola, I mean, we can say he's a genius. He's amazing. He's one of the greatest managers of all time. And say, I don't think he got it right without being disrespectful. Just an observation. We saw Rico Lewis play in front of Kyle Walker last weekend's Tottenham. It didn't work. How was Nunez going to work on this left-hand side in a flat midfield? Again, it didn't work. And he substituted them both after an hour. So it's obvious it didn't work. There were things that were wrong for City from the very start of the game. I was amazed how they set it up. But today, Liverpool become huge title favourites. This work control is really interesting. You can speak from experience on this, certainly. From a Liverpool perspective, the week they've had, where you play on Wednesday, the biggest game imaginable. There's nothing bigger than a home Champions League game against Real Madrid. You have to do that thing. Come in and believe you're going to give everything. And then you come back the next morning. Actually, the next game is the biggest game imaginable. And to play it, presumably with some emotion, but still with that degree of control, it's quite something, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, they're in a really good moment. I just say just the calmness, the composure to them. But there's a ferocity and a work ethic. They've got the real blend and balance of everything you would want in a good football team at this moment in time. And when you talk about control, there are some times in a football match where a team are attacking you and you're all behind the ball and you're in your shape and you've got real focus and concentration that you don't feel like they're ever going to score. And that's how I felt Liverpool were in this game. And we saw the expected goals. Whether you like it or not, it does tell us the quality of the chances that City have created. I think it was 0.23 and Liverpool were at 0.54. It was a proper battering that. They've been mauled here today, Manchester City. And I've seen them have some really difficult games. I think I've been every one of Pep Guardiola's games here at Anfield. I think I've done. And they've had some bad experiences here. But I think that was the worst today. Because they were never in the game. I've always felt City could be in the game here. I know it's a challenging place to come. And they've had some moments where they blew it here and it's sort of fallen away from them. I think the only time they've won here in the last 21 years has been in the COVID season without fans. So they don't handle this stadium well. And that means they've got to change something. So I was really surprised at the very beginning of the game. But Liverpool, they dominated it. It was absolute mauling. They were in complete control. And you won't see a more comfortable victory against Manchester City. I actually thought City, we were at the game last week against Tottenham when they lose 4-0. And that's bad. But when you go 3-0 up at home, even though it's a draw, and because you can see the 3, it's even worse. You come off that pitch absolutely demoralized. And we hit a point of post-treble. I didn't think they'd win the league last year. So it was sensational for what they did last year, winning the league and be able to get up again. And we won the league the year after the treble, and we won the league the year after that. But then we hit a wall. We've played so many games together. You've run a million miles. And this team, they've run their race together. At this moment in time, they really have run the race. I'm really interested in that, Gary, because it's hard. During the game, I tried to push you on it. It's tough. But all of us, certainly those of us who haven't played anything like high-level sport, maybe don't appreciate that. And I'll ask you the simple but very tough question. Why? Why a month and a half ago, Manchester City are 14 games unbeaten, and we're all going, same again, and then bosh, they're not. Why? It can be the flick of a switch. Something can change. Oh, obviously, the Rodri will keep on mentioning it until the cows come home, I think. But then all of a sudden, the weariness, the fatigue, you get a couple of bad results, then the confidence starts to go. And from weariness, fatigue, losing players, injuries, confidence, belief, and before you know it, everything looks like it's gone. And that's why I don't think anybody at this moment in time is really plowing into Pep Guardiola or Manchester City. These are proven serial winners. These guys that we're watching out on the pitch in those blue shirts today don't have anything to prove in respect to the fact they've got 5 and 6 Premier League titles, some of them. They've proven they are champion players. So it's not a case of, oh, they're out there, they've got a new contract and they're not doing well and they're not, they're sort of, if you like, they're not believing in the manager anymore, or they're not believing in the club, or they're not working as hard as they used to. None of that. I wouldn't say any of that about them. There just comes a point where you've climbed mountain after mountain after mountain and it just hits you. And that's what's happening. We've just seen a group of players who just at this moment in time can't do any more than what they're doing. And it looks humbling. They look so vulnerable. They look broken out on the pitch. The defenders are broken. The midfield players look weak. They look like they're being overrun, outworked. The forwards, to be fair, don't look like they're ever going to score. I know that's taking it. You know what I mean by that. They just don't look as dangerous. The patterns that we've always seen in City have gone. And Pep Guardiola's built two sensational football teams whilst he's been at the club. And he's going to have to go and build a third. Now, that doesn't mean rebuild as in, change 10 players. You're talking probably 2 or 3, 4 players max in and 2 or 3, 4 players out. They only usually use about 16 to 18 players, City. So you talk about changing quarter of your squad in and out. And there are a couple of things that are interesting. The De Bruyne thing is an unusual, bizarre, strange. Why he's probably the best player that the Premier League has had in the last 10 years. Why is he not out there? We know he's had injuries, but why is he not out there? Because he's a leader. He's got authority. He's got confidence. He's got brilliance. So something's going on. Something's definitely going on in the dressing room. There's something happening. But Pep Guardiola's got control. He's got control of the club. He's extended his contract. And I think he's probably waiting for that January transfer window and the May transfer, which is the June-July transfer window, for it to get to a point whereby he can rebuild and shape a new team in the next couple of seasons. And you saw him at the end there with the 6 up. Sorry, that's 5. That's 6. I quite like it. I think that people may say, oh, look, Pep sort of snapped. Someone came in here actually whilst he was very Josie-esque, but actually he's entitled to smirk. He's entitled to say, I've won 6. He's entitled to sort of, he's sucking on the lemon, as it were, tonight. He'll not feel great about it, but he's got to a point where he realizes, right? Okay, I'm here. I'm going to take my hits. I'm getting a clip round the ear type thing in front of everybody, and he has to pull his way out of it. And I'm sure he'll be thinking already about how he molds a new team. Certainly he'll be thinking about how, I said last week, can they, from this, win a Premier League title? I don't think they can. And I said last week, after the game, this would be Pep Guardiola's greatest ever title if they won it. If they won it after today, it would be beyond ridiculous if they were to win it from being 11 points clear. It would mean Liverpool would have had to have arrested this. What looks like a decline of this team at this moment in time. It's probably only right to finish this game on Liverpool since they're the ones flying away. When I was thinking about it earlier, around Arne Slot, words like honeymoon kept coming into my mind. But I thought actually it's got to be on the honeymoon now. Nobody has a honeymoon that lasts from August till December, do they? They lost to Nottingham Forest, but that apart, they just haven't had a blip at all. Honestly, it's an unbelievable performance from Liverpool, everybody, Arne Slot obviously, but the people who have appointed him, the people who've created the stability, the players most of all, in the sense of getting behind him, because it would have been very easy for those players. Neville gives his thoughts on Manchester City's decline. Why, a month and a half ago, Man City are 14 games unbeaten, and we're all going, same again, and then, bosh, they're not. Why? It can be the flick of a switch, something can change. Obviously, the Rodri will keep on mentioning it until the cows come home, I think. But then all of a sudden, the weariness, the fatigue, you get a couple of bad results, then the confidence starts to go. And from weariness, fatigue, losing players, injuries, confidence, belief, before you know it, everything looks like it's gone. And that's why I don't think anybody at this moment in time is really ploughing into Pep Guardiola or Man City. These are proven serial winners. These guys that that we're watching out on the pitch in those blue shirts today don't have anything to prove in respect to the fact they've got 5 and 6 Premier League titles, some of them. They've proven they are champion players. So it's not a case of, oh, they're out there, they've got a new contract and they're not doing well, and they're not, they're sort of, if you like, they're not believing in the manager anymore, or they're not believing in the club, or they're not working as hard as they used to. None of that. I wouldn't say any of that about them. There just comes a point where you climbed mountain after mountain after mountain and it just hit you. And that's what's happening. We've just seen a group of players who just at this moment in time can't do any more than what they're doing. And it looks humbling. They look so vulnerable. They look broken out on the pitch. The defenders are broken. The midfield players look weak. They look like they're being overrun, outworked. The forwards, to be fair, don't look like they're ever going to score. I know that's ticking it. You know what I mean by that? They just don't look as dangerous. The patterns that we've always seen in City have gone. And Pep Guardiola has built 2 sensational football teams whilst he's been at the club. And he's going to have to go and build a third. Now, that doesn't mean rebuild as in, change 10 players. You're talking probably 2 or 3, 4 players max in and 2 or 3, 4 players out. They only usually use about 16 to 18 players. So you're talking about changing a quarter of your squad in and out. And there are a couple of things that are interesting. The De Bruyne thing is unusual, bizarre, strange. Why is he probably the best player that the Premier League has had in the last 10 years? Why is he not out there? We know he's had injuries, but why is he not out there? Because he's a leader. He's got authority. He's got confidence. He's got brilliance. So something's going on. Something's definitely going on in the dressing room. There's something happening. But Pep Guardiola's got control. He's got complete control of the club. He's extended his contract. And I think he's probably waiting for that January transfer window and the June-July transfer window for it to get to a point whereby he can rebuild and shape a new team in the next couple of seasons. And you saw him at the end there with the 6 up, so that's 5, that's 6. I quite like it. I think that people may say, oh, look, Pep sort of tapped tar. Someone came in here actually whilst he was in. It's very Jose-esque. But actually, he's entitled to smirk. He's entitled to say, we've won 60. He's entitled to sort of, he's sucking on the lemon, as it were, tonight. He'll not feel great about it, but he's got to a point where he realizes, right, okay, I'm here. I've got to take my hits. I'm getting a clip round the ear type thing in front of everybody, and he has to pull his way out of it. And I'm sure he'll be thinking already about how he molds a new team. Firstly, he'll be thinking about how, I said last week, can they, from this win, a Premier League title? I don't think they can. And I said last week after the game, this would be Pep Guardiola's greatest ever title if they won it. If they won it after today. It would be beyond ridiculous if they were to win it from being 11 points clear. It would mean Liverpool would have had to have completely folded, and City would have had to have arrested this, what looks like a decline of this team at this moment in time. Right, let's just wrap up some of the headlines this evening. We've spoken to Jason already about Arsenal's perspective of beating Manchester United. What about the United state of play? He made quite a few changes, didn't he, Amorim? He left out his goal scorers from the weekend. He left out Amad Diallo. I get that he's trying to have a look at players, but if he had his time again, do you think he might have changed that decision? I don't know. I don't know how he's working. I don't know if he's coming this season. He's gonna, you know what? I need to see people. I look at their character. You know what? Players are gonna roll their sleeves up away from home. And that might be what he's doing at the moment. Because he'll need to do that. He'll need to come in. He'll have to make his mind up for next season, because if it keeps on going away, going on the same way it has been going on, they're not going to get anywhere. So he has to make them big decisions. As I said, I thought first half they were very, very comfortable. I saw never really looked like scoring, but they just turned it up in the second half. If they'd have played and they'd have got beat 2, Neil be sitting here going, why didn't he make changes? So, I give him the benefit of the doubt. He knows what he's doing. And I think, he's going to have a look this season and then go from there. And I think this is one of them seasons where hopefully he might get into Europe, get in the top 6. But at the same time, he needs to make decisions, because come the start of next season, he needs to hit the ground running and to make sure they're a team that are fighting for top 4. And that's the most important thing for Man United. Noah, how long do you think it will take him to work out his best 11? Wow, that's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult, especially the way they play, and they want to play free at the back, and wing backs is a difficult position. They haven't got natural wing backs at Man United. Some other clubs have. They haven't got that. So then it doesn't work straight away anyway. So for me, it's going to take time. It's going to be a lot of tweaking here and there, but it will take his time, but I'm sure he'll get it right. I mean, what this man done over in Sporting was phenomenal. And I think we've got to give him time, because this is a big job, Man United. We're talking, I still say they're one of the biggest clubs in the world. At the moment, they're not one of the biggest teams in the world. And that's the problem that he has. It's Ruben Amorim's first defeat in a league game since the 9th of December last year, for Sporting nearly a year without a defeat in the league. But it has happened tonight at the Emirates. No disgrace in that, though, the season Arsenal have been having. Our Premier League insider, David James, who's up to date with all of the hottest talking points right now in the game. David, Julian Lopetegui, big storyline yesterday. Another big defeat against Leicester City. What have you heard about his future at the club? He's fighting to save his job. He's under huge pressure. The hierarchy at West Ham, led by David Sullivan, the co-owner and chairman, are discussing his future as we speak. They're considering all options, which, of course, includes the possibility that he gets sacked after just 7 months in charge. From conversations I've had around the club today, it would appear that they are leaning in that direction, but the decision is not done yet. So we'll have to watch this space on whether they give him more time, whether they let him go on to play Wolves next Monday, of course, his former club. Now, in May, he signed a contract spanning 2 years with the option of a third. So it wouldn't be the most expensive deal if West Ham were to part company, but certainly it wouldn't be ideal, given how much they invested in him, not least on the players' side with recruitment. And we must look, of course, to the technical director Tim Stoyton in that as well. But if you go through some of the names, Max Kilman, Crescentio Somerville, Nicolas Folkrug, Luis Gilheme, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Jean-Claire Fedibo, Carlos Sola, Guido Rodriguez, how many of them really have made an impact? Look at their age profiles as well. Look at Mohamed Kudus missing 5 matches through suspension, and Folkrug a lot of time through injury. It's not been plain sailing. I think they considered this before the Newcastle match last week, but they went and won. He bought himself some time. I think they thought they had a turning point after they beat Manchester United 27th of October. It led to Erik ten Hag being sacked. But since then, they've won just 1 of their 5 matches. It's simply not going well on or off the pitch. There are reports of bust-ups at halftime of the Arsenal game between Lopetegui and Jean-Claire Thétibo. Names are already being linked with this job, such as Graham Potter, such as Edin Terzic, such as Sergio Conceição following his departure at Porto, such as Roger Smith, who was formerly of Benfica. West Ham tends to give their managers time. David Moyes and Sam Allardyce saw that. But once the fans turn at this club, it's very hard to find a way back. They did last night. Will he survive? We should know soon. It's a pretty dismal situation right now for Lopetegui, David. Well, another story that I know you've been covering, that is the contract updates coming out of Liverpool. What can you tell us? The news I broke today, Nolan, was that Virgil van Dijk has been offered a new contract by Liverpool. He has received a proposal. It was some time ago, as I understand it. However, that is quite significant news for Liverpool and their supporters. It's believed to have fallen below his expectations, so there's no agreement at this point. There's yet to be a breakthrough in terms of the value of the contract and also the length, the duration of it. But those conversations are ongoing and they will hope to retain such an important player. Mo Salah has spoken very publicly about not receiving an offer so far. I understand that that remained the case as recently as the Manchester City defeat on Sunday. But interestingly, I do understand that that will be changing very likely very soon. So again, we'll have to watch this space on that one. Why has he not been offered one and Virgil van Dijk has? That's a question Liverpool will have to answer. Maybe they're prioritizing their captain. Maybe if they know they're too far off on Salah, that they didn't want to make a formal offer just yet to risk antagonizing his camp. That said, both of them are very high earners already. They're already into their 30s. That would sort of go against Fenway Sports Group FSG's policy, their Moneyball model. And so it's a huge decision for them as well. They're in peak form, but not in peak age bracket. Is this the Mookie Betts moment? US sports fans may relate it to. Trent Alexander-Arnold has played ongoing with him as well. No agreement so far either with him. Real Madrid's interested, is well documented. It's decision time. The clock is ticking 2025 or sooner. They'll have to sort this out. All three players can sign pre-contract agreements with overseas clubs from the 1st of January. Why has it been left this late? Well, that's a question really for the previous regime, because Michael Edwards, CEO of Fenway Sports Group, Richard Hughes, sporting director, they came on board this year. They've inherited this problem. They're trying to deal with it, and they'll be judged, you could say. But in the meantime, the players are behaving impeccably. The team are winning matches. Arne Slot deserves huge credit for that. This is a massive situation for Liverpool, and they will hope to deal with it satisfactorily and succeed off the pitch like they are at the moment on it. It was sort of a very, very disciplined Leicester City team that he's come from. He's now gone to Chelsea, and he's done the same thing. He's made them solid at the back, and the young players are now a year wiser and a year more experienced this season. And we had a chat before the game started. He's making changes every single game. Joel Felix, can come into the side and play off the left-hand side and do something a little bit different. And he changes things very, very minimally, but making a huge impact. And I think what will excite the Chelsea fans is that players on the bench are really, really good. And Nkunku comes, I'm not sure where he started today, come off the bench. There's a lot going on, but they've got so many players on there that can start or not start and have an impact. That's what's kind of different. Like sometimes your bench is quite a bit of a drop-off. It looks like Chelsea have got a lot of good players that can come in and really add to the group. And what I would add to that as well is that you look at young players are a blank canvas. So you see this Chelsea team, there's not one fixed position for a player. And because they're young, they can be coached to be playing on the right wing, playing the left wing, playing as a false nine. And you've seen that with so many different players. So that enables you to mix and match when you need to, when players need a rest. But, Maresca is doing an incredible job. And the thing I've said about Chelsea before, and I say it again right now, because of this team is so young and so new to the Premier League, we don't know how good they're going to be. We don't know how high the ceiling is. This could be a dominant Chelsea team that are learning, improving. We saw with Arsenal a couple of years ago, Anna, we watched this team get better and better. And the young players are improving. Chelsea is starting from a pretty high level. Real title contenders, do you think? Too early to say? Again, I don't think they are. I don't think they can continue this. But, who am I? I might be wrong. Maybe they're right to the end. Can they be there right to the end? No, not this season. But I think I look at it like being Arsenal. They're a team now. They don't have to make it. I keep saying this, keep saying it. They keep winning. And they're in second spot right now. They're a team that are going to grow because of how young they are. We said about Arsenal. Arsenal, even if they sign no players out of season, they're going to be a better team than next year because they've got players that are no way near their peak yet. So they're going to be getting better all the time. So not this season, but next season they're going to be there. But they're not at their best yet? No. Might still be good enough? Not this season. I don't think so. I agree, but I'm just trying to be a devil's advocate. No, you think you're going to be in the league, don't you? Hey, look, they're only 7 back. There's a lot of football to play. I'm excited by them. They've got a lot of potential.